Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek and welcome back to my channel. It's so great to see all of the tributes to Adam West lately on people's social media posts or videos here on YouTube. It's really great to see, and I wanted to add my own voice to that tribute because he meant a lot to me as well. And I think he left an indelible mark on Batman that is still with us today, and he added something to the character that we still take on culturally. And that's really my angle of expertise. I do literary studies and I do cultural studies of characters and fiction mythologies that have an effect on our culture and how they affect our culture and why. And Batman, obviously a huge cultural mythological figure for us, and Adam West brought a lot to the character that we owe him for. So it was such a shame to hear about his passing. I was about 8 or 9 when I first got into comic books and Batman, and it was in '89 when the Michael Keaton, Tim Burton Batman film released, and just everywhere you went was Batmania. It was such a fun time to live through for people who remember that. But of course they were bringing up anything that had to do with Batman everywhere. I mean, marketing everywhere. It was just every store you went in, every channel you turned on. So of course they brought back the reruns of the 1966 Batman series. Started playing 4 times a week almost, I believe, on some channels and stuff like that. You know, because they had the 2-parters, cliffhangers and stuff like that. And I started watching it as a child, and for me, there was not even any kind of problem with that treatment of the character. You know, it's very much, I love the Tim Burton movie, still do, and I love that portrayal of the character, and I started getting into the comics, of course. So, I mean, I could tell that there was something different about the 66 show. Of course, it was more comedic, more lighthearted, lighter. But it never struck me as this wasn't the real character, or this wasn't right. I can understand how maybe some people living through that time, having been fans of Batman in the comics before that. I've heard Michael Uslan, for example, talk about how angered he was by that series, and I'm sure it was nothing personal to Adam West, but I can understand how people might be angered at the time, thinking that this is what people were trying to turn the character into or something. I came to it much later than that, so for me it was just such a fun portrayal of the character, fun to follow every day. As I grew older and started studying characters and mythology and how they work in culture, and having been a Batman fan ever since, I can see now things that Adam West brought to the character and to the mythology and how it's portrayed that we have today that we wouldn't have otherwise. First of all, Adam West really showed us that Batman could be portrayed in a comedic fashion. People might think it's funny to watch the old 40s serials, but they certainly weren't written as comedy back then in the day. They were, you know, for children in the theaters, and they were supposed to be high suspense and all of that. But the Batman 66 series was supposed to be comedy. Not just comedy, it was specifically a theater of the absurd. That's the technical name for that genre of comedy, where these utterly absurd things are happening. People are saying utterly absurd things, but everyone in the story treats them seriously. Everything is of dire importance. And you saw that in Adam West's performance, as well as the other characters, Burt Ward and so forth. But he showed us that Batman could be treated in a comedic way. I don't think we'd have things like Batman the Brave and the Bold animated series. That was a great series recently for younger children. I don't think we'd have that series if we didn't first have Batman 66. I know that the films are generally seen to have gone down in quality after Tim Burton, and I'm certainly not going to defend the George Clooney Batman to you, but I do think Batman Forever, for example, has some quite a few redeeming traits for what it was. And I don't think we'd have that kind of lighthearted-ish take if we didn't have Adam West Batman as well. So he broadened the character out that it could be a bunch of different things, and that's how characters survive in culture. Not that you change who they are at their core, but you show that they can be adapted in some different fashions, so that as culture changes, they stay relevant and stuff like that. Again, that's not changing them in their core, as I've talked about in other places, but Adam West helped make the character pliable like that. And then the other thing tied into that is how seriously he took the character. Certainly on the show, because that's what's required from the theater of the absurd. You take everything you're doing very seriously. But he also took the character very seriously just out in the culture. You never saw from Adam West anything like a resentment of the character or anger at being pigeonholed. I mean, I know pigeonholing is a real thing that actors have to worry about when you're trying to make a living from your craft and trying to get new roles and such like that. You don't want to just be thought of as one role. I know that's a real thing, but I also know that it's so disillusioning, disappointing, and honestly disgusting to hear interviews or to be at conventions, for example, and you hear celebrities, and it's just obvious that they're tired of talking about this one character. You know, they're just obvious. It's obvious that they're they resent being associated with that character so much. They wanted you to talk about the other things that they've been into and stuff like that. So that's always kind of disappointing because the fans love them through that other character, and not just the fans, but the culture in general connects to them through that other character. It's not just a random teeny bopper kind of celebration of it. I mean, some characters affect our culture in deep ways because of something mythological and psychological that's going on. So he never exhibited that. He always took the character very seriously, always seemed very proud of playing him, was always, I've never seen him even remotely rude or condescending or anything other than thankful to his fans, which was really great to see. So he took the character seriously, and what I want to say about that is that that's the right balance of that. To take the character completely seriously, even when he's being portrayed in a comedic fashion. You can watch the Batman 66 show, and you can see him do the most outlandish things. You can see him, Adam West dancing as Batman, all these great things like that. But Batman never loses his dignity. That's the cool, and I don't even know exactly how to explain it. If you watch the Batman 66 series, I hope that you can see this as well. He does ridiculous things sometimes, especially to our eyes from, hindsight and the culture of the 60s and stuff like that. Some of the things he's doing can just be utterly ridiculous, totally played for silly comedic value, but Batman retains every bit of his dignity, throughout any of it. And that's just something that Adam West was able to bring to the character, and it was so great. He stuck with the character too, even as fandom kind of went back and forth on the popularity of the 66 series. Luckily, I think any fan would at least, even if they're not fans, like I have friends who aren't really fans of the 66 series, but will at least recognize and respect it for what it is, and Adam West for what he's done and brought to the character. And I'm glad that happened before he passed. That was great for him to be able to see. But he also stuck with the character in other ways too. In the 90s, it was very popular that he came on the animated series to play the Grey Ghost and add his voice to the mythology and deepen it even more. That was a great thing to see. It's also really great to see him in the Batman animated series, somewhat more recent. A lot of people, not as many people have watched that series as other ones. I'm going to do a review of it eventually, but he played the mayor of Gotham City for a couple of seasons on there. That was great to see. And of course, most recently, he's done the animated film, Batman 66. Return of the Caped Crusaders. He, Burt Ward, Julie Newmar returned, and that was wonderful to watch and to see. And it retained everything that was fun and whimsical and comedic about that first series. It stayed in the theater of the absurd and just showed that after everything that's been done with the character, you can still go back to that. And it's not to say that you can't take Batman too lightly, and he's certainly been written entirely too dark lately. Batman is not the Punisher or Spawn, and kind of stuff started in the 80s, but even after all of that, we had a film recently with Batman going psycho and murdering people. And even after that, you can come back and have Adam West portray Batman in that way, and it's still every bit as fun. It's still every bit as recognizable as Batman. He is the detective, he's the Dark Knight, he's the Caped Crusader. Doesn't matter what the treatment was. So that was just something special that Adam West had to it, that he brought to the character, that I just wanted to add my voice to the tribute. Again, this isn't really, I didn't want to take the time to write this out and very thoroughly and clearly and in a deep way present all of this, because I wanted to get this tribute out as soon as possible, and that would have taken a lot of time, and who knows when that could have been released. But anyway, I do recommend anybody who hasn't seen much of the 1966 show, or maybe saw a little bit of it and just wonders where to jump in, certainly the most recent animated film. I believe, I don't know if he ever actually recorded the tracks for the sequel. They were planning a sequel. I haven't really looked into that. It'll be very disappointing if he died too early for that to be a reality. But anyway, it's Return of the Caped Crusaders. You can get it on all the usual places online if you just want to stream it, rent it quickly or whatever. But a great film and a great introduction to that. The comics as well. Jeff Parker just wrote the most amazing Batman 66 comics, and they've gone on. There's crossovers now between Batman 66 and Wonder Woman 77. There's Batman and Green Hornet crossover. So that series is still alive and still great, as well as those original 66 shows. You just can't get away from the greatness of those, or the Batman movie that they made as well during the end of the first season, I think it was. So do recommend them highly. There's just something special he brings to the character, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's so neat how he can treat the character with the utmost respect and dignity, yet play it out in full-on theater of the absurd, and it's just really great and fun to see. So if this is your first time here, though, do stick around. I would love it if you click the subscribe button. I've got cultural analyses and literary analyses of these characters, of superheroes. They come out twice weekly, one during midweek and one during the weekend. I am about to release the third or fourth part in my Superman animated series, and that features an interview with Ginny McSwain, who was the voice director and the Lois Lane for the Ruby Spears Superman. So that's going to be coming out a little bit later today. And I've got my usual, I think I promised in the other video, which is still coming, my look at do comic characters change, how much should they change, what's too much, what, how do they change, and all that kind of stuff. So that'll be out soon as well. Don't forget to share with friends. That's the best way to help the channel grow. And until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the superhero stories you love. Thanks for watching.